to Mark Terranova from Kitchen Kitchen, who's going to talk about, I love you too, about Linux as a cult is the best way I can describe it.
I love Linux on a level that scares some of my friends. I love Linux on a level that scares some of my friends that are into Linux. And that's okay. We tend to take this to an extreme state at some point. We tend to take this to the point that if someone creates a universal truth, it's somehow less valid because it was done on a Windows machine. You know, if you can create a beautiful truth or a piece of artwork or a writing and you can do that, and you can actually help someone with it, I don't really care how it's created. I want you to create that universal truth. That's way up here. Once you get a little down below that, once you get below, hey, universal truth, world a better place, all that kind of stuff, I want you to use Linux because of all of its benefits. But I don't ever let it get confused with the really, really important stuff. Part of a nonprofit that donates computers to people in need. And we had some people giving some cat calls on a group in the Bay Area that does the same thing as us with Linux, but they do it with Windows. And someone was like really disparaging against them. My attitude was, if someone's poor and they need to get skills, I don't really care. If there were more Linux groups that were able to do it and we were able to do the thing where we were able to try and help people, that would be maybe a different point. If we had more computers than we know what to do with, and we could just give Linux computers to them, yeah, I might tell you maybe they shouldn't use Windows because of the addiction cycle and you needing to buy new forms of Windows Word or whatever, you know, you need to keep buying that stuff. But that's not what it is. There isn't enough computers. See, that's what I'm saying. See, this is, by the way, dancing with this thing, awesome. Because you can really accentuate your moves and stuff. But anyway. Notions about cults.
Mass cults!
You know, if you were offered Kool Aid by a penguin, what would you do? I mean, like literally, if someone came up to you before you got into Linux and said, there's this penguin, and he wants you to join in with this cause, and what you're going to do is you're going to take on this really large corporation in a way. And you're not just going to take on corporations, you're going to take on ways of thinking, and you're going to take on things that sort of have to do with our culture on a really base level. And that we just want you to drink this Kool Aid. I don't know how many people would do that. That's a little crazy with it and stuff.
Good movie plot.
Well, it is. It's just, you know, I mean, like, really, I mean, honestly, I think if we were to try and get people into Linux, and were to tell them all the honest parts about it from the beginning, especially some of the stuff from like 3-4 years ago before we got some of this stuff sorted out, it'd be a little harder. We had to like kind of fluff around the edges on a little bit of stuff and just, you know.
As long as it wasn't Steve Jobs.
Yeah. One of my main gists is there are very few evil companies, and the proviso I always throw in there is Apple. I don't think Microsoft's the biggest enemy anyone has out there. I think Apple's more dangerous in a lot of ways. They also make beautiful hardware, a whole bunch of other stuff right there as the other ones. But they talking about a cult. That's the other reason this sort of came up with. It's just like the whole thing is I really take offense when Apple people say they're not a cult.
Well, they're not free and open source.
Oh, but they're a cult though. They're a cult because you can walk in and Apple people know they can walk into a Starbucks because there's a law that says you have to have apples in Starbucks. And they will go in and they will see a machine from away and they will know which MacBook there is.
What is a cult?
A cult's a crazy group that you're not part of. I know there's a different way to put it. And that was part of the thing with me looking up different definitions. The definition varies, and that's part of the reason that, yes, Linux is a cult, or no, it's not. I mean, it depends on the definition, but when you look at them, it doesn't just need to be done on a religious basis. It doesn't just need to be done with a central person at it. A lot of times it can be a pyramid structure, or it can just be something where you have someone at the top.
Well, cults tend to have certain characteristics. It doesn't matter if you're talking religion or anything else. They tend to be extremists. They tend to have closed minds and not open to a free and open discussion. And those are the two big ones, I think, in my opinion.
Oh, you mean political parties?
Political parties.
Good
Democrats
point.
versus the Republicans versus the Greenpeace versus whatever.
As long as anyone else have any, like, what do you think of when you think of cult?
Well, doesn't a cult usually have a control, somebody who's in charge that controls the people inside of it, or the people beneath them?
Yeah, and that's one of the things with the pyramid, is that there's not just like the Jim Jones model where it's just one person at the top. It can be a pyramid where it can be the enlightened folks at the top, and it can be the rest of us below.
The members of the cult seek a leader.
Sometimes the cult leaders didn't start out as a cult leader. They were just a member, and then the group just went, hey, you know way more than us. You're in charge now, tell us what to do.
Well, in Linux, that's Linus.
And RMS, yeah. RMS.
You know, we want this godlike person to bless the whole organization. I mean, there's a tendency of the members of the cult to want someone.
Yeah, and
They don't want to think for themselves.
Whether they want that role or not.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, well, it's not even a thinking for yourself. It's that it's easier to follow a wizened leader. It's the part that starts out as. No one ever just jumps in and just goes full out from the get-go. You know, no one ever just decides they're going to join the cult, you know, shave their head and wear a polka dot outfit and go hang out at airports. No one ever goes, oh really? Dude, I'm there. You just told me about it. I'm there. They get to that in a point, and you know, somewhere along it, they're selling enlightenment. They're selling some sort of specialness with a group. Anyone else have any ideas on cults?
Well, when you first start out entering any type of organization, this one is an example. You come in, you're a stranger, you want to make friends. Oftentimes you don't want to voice your own opinions because it might conflict with the group. And you're also looking for a mentor. You're looking for somebody who can teach you the ropes about what's going on. Either, in this case, would be various flavors or distros of Linux, or with the group.
I don't know. I think cults introduce invasive dependencies. That you're suspending your disbelief for some kind of benefit.
Attachment to ideology.
Yeah, right. And so I mean, and I think that can be abused by people who are willing to let that be too invasive in their lives and defer to leadership for fundamental questions about how you're going to do life.
Please tell me no one here is looking to me to tell me how to run your life.
There seems to be a major mindset difference between people here and Windows users, and my daughter's classic. She said it very plainly to me a long time ago when she was at Davis University. Dad, I don't care how it works as long as it works. If I have to write a term paper, I don't care what's under the hood as long as I can write that term paper and not lose it.
I don't either.
We, on the other hand, have a tendency to get in there and play. It's a toy for us, a mental toy. We want to play, we want to make it do things our way.
I have been always a Linux user, and I want the computer to work the way I want it to work. I don't really care how it works, but I want this to open when I double click it. Not, you know, like, I want the focus to follow the mouse. I want to not have to be clicking and doing things all the time. I want it to work the way I want it.
And that's the, to me, I put that on a scale, and I would say most people who get involved, they have their make or break thing. What you guys are describing is your make or break is a whole bunch of little bit of things. You know, a whole bunch of lots of little things and stuff. My grandma's make or break application for her to get on Linux. She didn't care about anything else. She liked the idea of no viruses or not having to worry as much about that. Loved all these other things. Her make or break app was Microsoft Windows Solitaire. I kid you not. That was it.
She installed wine.
Yes, but you know, I was unaware of how important the card backs were, and I didn't realize that I had to do this card DLL file. And which, by the way, I was glad the members of my local church, or my Linux users group, were there. And one of the guys from Wine was there, and was able to say, you know, the first application we did was Windows Solitaire. So I was able to get that for him.
Yeah, so I'm on the exact opposite extreme. We're publicly funded. There's an NIH mandate to share the all the data, all the analyses of the data, all the software generated to produce that data, to analyze the data and present the data. And a LAMP environment is perfect for us. I mean, end to end, and all the tools that are available, and we use all the scripting languages. We modify Apache as we need to, and it's really a powerful tool. And there are people that are building software and sharing this data internationally, like biomarts, biotorrents, and there are new needs with things like recently there's the opportunity to resequence and huge volumes of data, which presents more problems, and but it also presents almost instantaneously solutions that are all open source.
And that is one of my favorite, the whole LAMP stack thing. It's just something that even if you don't get what the concept is, it's something that I'm able to explain to most people when I try and recruit them. I try and explain to them, you've already used Linux. You go on the internet. Most of those are hosted on Linux machines. Yes, some of them are hosted on Windows, and most of the time you can tell when they're hosted on Windows because they don't work right. They do work right some of the time, but they tend to fail more on that, and then you tend to do it, and then that's generally leads to the question, does that website you're trying to look at end in ASP? One of the things that I finally decided with people is I have some Windows friends who every so often stuff breaks, because Windows breaks in about a year. BitRot normally is the time frame. Windows 7 will probably be a little better at that. Windows 7 so much sucks less than anything else they got. I mean, flat out, Windows 7 is so much less painful than the other stuff. Cults can take up members' free time just for recruiting others. That's a lot of times in the activities. That one's pretty much straightforward.
Some of these are characteristics of a volunteer community.
They are, and that's the thing that's really interesting. That's why I really, at first was going to define what a cult was. And the thing is, there's so much variance. There tends to be some really clear lines when one religious group defines what other things are cults. Like, that fine line between. There's a lot more definitive stuff on that, but I didn't want to, I'm not trying to disparage anyone's belief systems or lack of belief systems and stuff, but there was a lot more clear delineation on that. There's a lot of variances on cults, because anything, a lot of the major belief systems now, when they first started, were cults.